All right.
Here we are.
Here.
Getting ready to continue your election coverage. We are seeing some of the results start to flow in, but before we talk about what's going on nationally, we want to make sure that we stay hyper local.
Yeah, so we're keeping you updated throughout the evening, giving you some local information, some state, Florida, Alabama. We're keeping watch on a few races, a few amendments going on as well.
Absolutely. And in Baldwin County, we have our Hal Sherrick standing by. I want to take it out to him right now because Hal has been joining us for coverage throughout the day. And Hal, the polls are going to be closing in about 30 minutes. What are you seeing now?
Lenise, I'm here at Spanish Trail Baptist Church in the Malbus area off Highway 90, and you can see just a few people trickling in and out right now. We did have some rain showers late this afternoon. We had an accident, unfortunately, that just happened out near this polling place. I think that slowed down a little bit of the turnout. Now, speaking of turnout, though, I will say that in speaking with Baldwin County elections official Judge Harry Doleave earlier today, he told we're seeing we could actually break some records. We had a 62% turnout back in 2020 for the presidential race, and he thinks we could hit 60 or more % again this year based on what he saw. Now, at Daphne Civic Center, there was a steady flow of voters in and out throughout the day. It's one of the largest polling centers in Baldwin County, but folks were able to get in and out with little wait. How long the wait was, though, depended largely on the size of the polling center. St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Daphne had a wait of an hour or more, and many who voted there, for many of them, it was their first time since the new voting districts were drawn. This created a little bit of confusion with some folks, but most got it worked out. We also received some complaints that there were issues with voting machines there at St. Paul's. There were 2 machines there. Now, those I spoke with, though, who voted told me they didn't notice any problems. I did ask Judge Doleave specifically about that. He told me there was a brief problem because both machines were plugged in to the same outlet, which did cause the issue, and that was quickly remedied. Other than that, he says the issues were few.
There was a little issue in Summerdale Community Center. It's a very small building and a large turnout. We have one machine issue in the Point Clear. We're on our way to check now, but they have 2 machines, so they're still up and running. It's not a problem. Just slow them down a little bit. There was a little issue in Summerdale.
They did have some machine issues at Point Clear, but did work those out. There's a little issue at some. Let's see. Judge Doleave also said, other than those incidents, there were some of the larger precincts running was remedied by getting some elections officials to head over there and bring them some supplies, or some sheriff's deputies assigned to the election to do the same thing and get everything back in order pretty quick. Now, long waits were the order of the day for many. Some I spoke with said it's the longest they've ever had to wait. Does it surprise you it's been such a long wait today?
Yes.
Why is that a surprise to you in this election cycle?
Because in the past 20-something years, it has been this long. I guess more people are interested this year.
Is that encouraging, though?
Oh, yes. To me, it is.
All right, here at Spanish Trail Baptist Church in Malbus, the day started with about a 2-hour wait. My daughter voted here this morning. This happens to be where I vote. She said it took 2 hours right off the bat early this morning. And I spoke with one gentleman who came later in the day, said his wife came by and had almost a 3-hour wait. And so we've been hearing of some long waits at many locations, Fairhope and that sort of thing. I had to wait about 25 minutes when I came at 1:30 or so today. So it just goes to show, it depends on what time of day you came, depends on the weather. As the rain came, fewer folks drove up. That may have hurt some of the turnout. We'll just have to wait and see about that. And of course, we'll be having all your coverage, all your returns as they begin to come in just a little while. We're sitting at the 6:30 mark. So 30 more minutes to get out to the polls. As long as you're in line by 7 o'clock, no one's going to keep you from voting. The matter of fact, the poll workers will take a look at who's in line at 7 o'clock and make sure that no one else comes along after, but everyone who's in line gets in to cast their vote. So once again, right here, you can see it's pretty slow, but we did have a couple incidents, both weather and a wreck out on Highway 90 that kind of put a damper on things. So eager to see what that turnout number looks like as they get the full count in, and that's probably going to be a few days, but that's what it looks like right now. We'll send it back to you guys. Live in Baldwin County, Hal Sherrick, Fox 10 News.
All right, thank you, Hal. Appreciate your insight there. You know, Hal is at the precinct that I voted at earlier. He talked about the way that his daughter experienced. I was in line there for about an hour. My husband went right at 7 when the polls opened, and he had to wait 2 hours. Nonetheless, no problems when we were there. Everything moved smoothly, and it was good to see everyone getting out and exercising their right to vote.
I will say, speaking to some of our reporters that were out there, and we'll of course toss to a few of them that are still at some precincts, they're seeing longer lines this year for this election. So pretty good stuff to just see more people coming out there and voting, of course.
And we still have some of the Baldwin County races pulled up behind us. This is what you saw on the ballot. You had a Chief Justice race that was on the ballot. And then also too, Vanessa, there were some amendment races on there too.
So we do have the amendment one, just kind of giving you a few information. Now this amendment, there's 3 locations that are under that amendment. And then we're keeping up with amendment 2, of course, just giving you another same amendment but different area, correct?
Yeah, you had one for Bon Secours, then you had one for White House Fork, and then another one for Stapleton.
Yeah, so all of the 3 different amendments. Still no results right now, so of course the polls are still open.
Yes,
right now, so.
We've got about what, 30 minutes plus or minus?
Yeah, so we got a bit of time right now before the polls close. So you still got plenty of time to go out there and vote if you haven't already.
And we've been checking in with our reporters throughout the day. You know, Brendan Kirby is standing by in Mobile County, where Caroline Dobson is going to be having her watch party at Fort Whiting. Ariel Mallory is going to be joining us later throughout the evening. She's with Shamari Figures. Of course, this is the other very closely watched race for our area, District 2. We will have crews there giving you an insight as to what happens when those polls close, a reaction that starts to come in, and the excitement that builds in the room, and then also when the race is called. And we're going to be here with you through it all. Claudia Nichols is going to be joining us momentarily. We checked in with her during Fox News at 5. She was talking about the younger voter getting out and talking about the importance that it was for them to exercise their right. She spoke with a Gen Z voter who talked about, you know, you can't complain about the ballot if you're not going out there and voting. So we will be checking in with her hopefully in about, 3 minutes?
Yeah,
I keep saying plus or minus because it could be less or it could be more.
Yeah.
But we do want to see how polls are shaping up now. People are getting off work. They're having an opportunity to go out, and just wanting to see if
what we're doing right now, we have a few reporters out there. So we're talking to a few people. Claudia right now, we're still trying to get in touch with her, but I think we're going to try to do Dacian next.
Okay.
So you just heard from Hal. He's in Baldwin County. Dacian has been covering Florida.
Escambia County, Florida, talking about the voter turnout there. Of course, you know, Florida, part of it is on the Eastern time zone, so the polls there won't be closing as soon as they will here for Alabama. But we've been checking in with him throughout the day. Florida had 2 amendments also that they were voting on. I know the abortion issue, redefining the weeks allowed for that, was something that voters were voting on. And then also a marijuana law was something that voters had the opportunity to exercise their vote on. And Dacian has been really starting our coverage from Pensacola since yesterday. We had him there.
And, you know, we've been keeping up with a few races in Florida. We obviously have the U.S. Senate.
Right.
We have 5 candidates there. You can see some numbers already. They did have a bit of early voting, too. So I know we're going to get him to talk about early voting in that state. But you have candidates here. You have 44% of people already, information already coming in, and you also have the 5th candidate right there. But you have the House race as well.
And in addition to this, I think we're getting a phone call. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, so we do have Dacian standing by right now. So we're going to try to toss things over to Dacian. Hopefully he can hear us right now. But he is, and he'll tell us where he's at, but he is
in Pensacola.
In Pensacola. Okay, so we're going to toss things over to you, Dacian. What have you been seeing? Talk about early voting.
Looks like he's got a guest.
Yeah, he does have someone with him.
Hey, Vanessa and Lanice, we're here where they're starting to go through some of the ballots. You're right, that early voter turnout was a huge deal here in Florida, and here to talk about that is Robert Bender, Escambia County Supervisor of Elections. First of all, thank you for having us out here. Sure. Second of all, how have things kind of been going for you guys out here throughout the day?
They've gone well. We've had a great turnout. Would have loved to have more, but still percentage-wise higher than what we did in 2020. Approaching some of our highest, 80% was the highest that we had in the county twice that we've had before. So approaching those highest percentage turnouts that we've seen before. So I'd say people still have 20 minutes. So if they want to get to their polling location and make their voice count, they still have time to cast a ballot.
And we talked about it yesterday with that 80%, you know, so many people coming out, taking advantage of the mail-in voting, the early voting, that really helped kind of, I guess, get you guys off to a head start as far as those voting numbers, right?
It did. We had 53% of our registered voters had already voted before Election Day, so that was great turnout. We had a record high in terms of early voting with 80,000 voters, and we've processed over 32,000, 34,000 vote by mail. So we still have some coming in. The U.S. Postal Service just brought another 15 for us as they're going through their offices the last the last hours of the day.
And like you mentioned, those polls do close in about 20 minutes. So what do the next few hours look like for y'all here?
So a lot of it's just going to be getting those ballots and the information back to our warehouse, those things that we really need to protect, like I said, the ballots, so that if we have to look at them again, we'll run them through our audit machine and make sure that that independent system, that those results match, or we can account for why they don't match those results. And again, in August, we had a 9-vote difference out of all the contests that were voted. So, and we can account for each one of those. So it's important that we have this audit ability, and so that's what we'll be doing, is getting those ballots in and looking at that. But really, it'll be processing these last vote by mail ballots that we have. We have some that we're opening right now, but we won't count those until a little bit later. Our focus right now is the polls closing, getting those results out as quickly as possible. We have to have the early vote and the vote by mail numbers out before 7:30.
And you mentioned, you know, that audit system, the checks and balances, because like we talked about yesterday, if you're even one vote off, you do want to know why. So a lot of measures went into this whole process, making sure every ballot gets marked correctly, right?
It does. So really, as the polls start to shut down, our clerks and poll workers who have been checking those numbers all day to make sure everything balances between the number of voters that have checked in, the number of ballots that have been cast, all that matches up. And so we'll be going through that paperwork for the next few weeks, but tonight we want to try to account for everything and everyone.
As far as in-person voting here on Election Day, we were at a couple of polling places earlier, and everybody kind of said how smooth the process was. A lot of them said they were able to get in and out. Have you heard any feedback about the process today? Any major hiccups, anything like that?
We've processed a lot of voters who have had change of addresses, and so that's slowed those voters down a little bit. But the precincts that I made it to, there was no wait, and I know after the initial surge this morning, I think it was mostly that way for most of the day. So glad that the voters you talked to had a good experience. That's what we want, and that's what we strive for.
Definitely still a long ways to go as far as counting all these, even when the polls close in a few minutes.
It is, and again, it's more about securing the data and getting that to our secure facility tonight and protecting that. But again, it's also going to be getting the results out as quickly as we can. I think we'll show that Florida has run another successful election.
I'm sure that's something a lot of voters would like to hear, especially with that kind of turnout. Robert Bender, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll, of course, keep you up to date with the latest voter turnout numbers. Of course, we'll have results for you throughout the night, both here and in Alabama. So Vanessa and Lanice, I'm going to send it back to you guys.
All right. Thank you very much, Dacian, for that update in Florida. And, you know, this is the kind of information that we're going to be bringing you throughout the night here on our Gulf Stream throughout this evening as we are watching those votes being tallied and coming in.
And you just heard from them. The main thing right now is securing those votes and taking them to their next facility. So they're trying to just focus on that right now and then moving to the next step after that.
All right. And now, as I talked about earlier, we are going to get an update on Claudia Nichols. She is standing by live now. Claudia, we've been checking in with you throughout the evening. About 20 minutes left now for voters to get out there. Are you still seeing people trickling in?
It hasn't been too busy. There has been a little bit more of a steady flow of traffic. As it gets later into the evening, people are starting to get off work, and so they're coming out to the polls. They do close at 7, so there's only a little less than half an hour left for people to come out and place their vote. Now, I've been all over Mobile today. I've been to at least 3 or 4 different other polling locations, and it was a little bit busier this morning. I was seeing some of those longer lines. In the afternoon, it started to get slower, and then, like I said, in the evening, it's picked back up again. But let me take a step out of the way so you can see kind of what this looks like here. Really, there's no long lines, but the parking lot is full. We have lots of cars here. Another opportunity I had earlier in the day was to go out to the University of South Alabama, and I spoke with several students there who voted for the first time, and they were just telling me about how excited they were to be able to do that, how special that opportunity was, and a lot of them told me that exercising that right to vote to them really felt like a responsibility. And it was so encouraging to see so many young people out at the polls today. It is currently starting to rain. It has been raining for the last couple of minutes, and so I'm interested to see if that will affect voter turnout at all. But for now, reporting live, Claudia Nichols, Fox 10 News.
All right. Thank you, Claudia. Good to see people are still getting out there. You know, it can be difficult when you work, when you've got a family to cook dinner for. You got to squeeze in that voting when you can, and people are doing that.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Claudia. So you already heard about a little bit of the voting turnout in different areas, Baldwin County, Mobile, Florida. Now we need to check on a race that people are keeping a close eye on.
She's talking about Mobile County and the District 2. This is a redrawn district to make it more reflective of the community. And our Brendan Kirby is standing by to talk more about this very closely watched race. It could make up a difference in terms of who has control. So we have been covering this extensively, Fox News, with having debates since it started. Most recently, we had a debate between Caroline Dobson and Shamari Figures. Speaking of Dobson, I can see we have Brendan pulled up now, so let's go ahead and bring him into the conversation. Brendan, you are at the Watch Party headquarters.
Yeah, that's right. We're here at Fort Whiting. Caroline Dobson has chosen to have her election party. This is kind of a tradition for Mobile County Republicans. They've done this for a number of elections where they all gather here. It's kind of a one-stop shop for Republicans. And let me just show you what the room looks like now. When we first got here, there was no one here. It's starting to fill up now. I see the Sheriff, Paul Burge. I saw Mobile County Commissioner Randall Dewitt. Earlier, there was also Ben Reynolds on the Mobile City Council. So we're kind of at the point now where there are more attendees than media, and that really was not the case when we first started here. So these are all folks, I mean, some of these folks aren't even in this new 2nd Congressional District, but these are all Republicans that care very much about that seat because, as we've talked about before, it's a competitive race in Alabama. We don't normally see that for the U.S. House in recent elections. They've kind of been blowout districts one way or the other. This one is competitive. It's on the national radar. It's sort of on the outer edge of competitiveness. The handicapping groups that have rated these have judged this as competitive but likely to flip from Republican to Democrat, and that's because, as you'll recall, last year a federal judicial panel ordered that Alabama redraw that map so that black voters have a greater influence. So what's at stake here, beyond the national control of the House, is if the Democrat Shamari Figures manages to win this race, Alabama will have 2 black members of Congress for the first time, at least since Reconstruction, if not ever, and that would be a big deal, from a historical standpoint. And then, of course, there's that partisan control. We're a very divided country. The presidential election looks like it's going to be very close. The Senate could be split 50-50, and the House, already is just within a few seats, one direction or the other, of flipping over, and this is an important one. Now, we were able to catch up with Caroline Dobson this afternoon on the campaign trail. We talked to her yesterday. She was in Mobile. She spent a lot of time here. Mobile makes up a pretty significant portion of this new district. And if you remember from that map, it's pretty much the city of Mobile, almost all of the city of Mobile, plus northwest Mobile County, and then it runs up through the Black Belt, takes in Montgomery County, which is the other big population center, and then goes across to the Georgia line. So both candidates spent a lot of time here because Mobile is a very significant chunk of that district. Now this campaign, it's been kind of interesting what the candidates have chosen to talk about, whereas Shamari Figures has wanted to talk a lot about health care and the Affordable Care Act and expanding Medicaid. Caroline Dobson has talked about other ways to prevent rural hospitals from closing, and also has attacked Shamari Figures for his association with the Justice Department that brought a federal lawsuit against Alabama to block a law that the legislature passed that prevents doctors from prescribing puberty blockers and other gender-affirming care to transgender youth. She's also talked about transgender athletes in sports and keeping male sports for males and female sports for females. So it's not even just that the candidates have different views on these issues. They really have different issues that they've wanted to talk about. I'll give you another look here at the room. Every 15 minutes or so, more people come. Of course, it's still not quite 7. There's some stragglers over the next 13 minutes or so that are going to have an opportunity to weigh in and cast ballots in this race. And I'd expect probably about 7:15 when those polls are closed, this room's going to fill up, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be eagerly monitoring those returns, not just in this race, but the national race. Everyone in this room very invested in the presidential election. And as the night goes on, we hope to bring you some of those voices of the people in here. Right now, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Brent. And of course, we'll be checking back in with you on air and online as more people start to trickle into that watch party for Dobson. I did see the Mobile County Sheriff Paul Birch there. Of course, Dobson getting the confirmation, if you will, the endorsement from the sheriff's office. So not surprising to see him there showing up for what they hope to be a victory tonight.
Yeah, so that's obviously one of the watch parties that we're keeping track of, and we're also watching the other watch party as well.
That's right. You've got the Democrat Shamari Figures, where we have been keeping up with their watch party going on at the Battle House, and that's a refined Fox News reporter, Ariel Mallory, who has been standing by. Now, Ariel, we checked in with you at 4 o'clock and at 5 o'clock, and not a lot of action going on. I'm happy to see some people there behind you now. I did see there we go. We've got some action. How's it looking now?
Yeah, Lanice and Vanessa, just in the last few minutes, we are getting the chance to see a few people coming into the room. I'm going to get my photographer Hayden to kind of just do a quick pan of the room here. We're at the Battle House, downtown Mobile, where we are expecting this room to fill up shortly. Now, there have been preparations underway here for Shamari Figures. We anticipate him actually within the next hour or so, because the polls are going to be closing soon. Now, as Brendan just mentioned, this is a big race. This 2nd congressional district, newly drawn, has drawn a lot of attention. And you know what prompted this? You know, both parties targeted the 2nd congressional district after the federal courts ordered last year to give district lines more of a black voters the chance to have an influence. And so, as Brendan Kirby just mentioned, you know, it does include the city of Mobile, those district lines redrawn, including more parts of northern Mobile County, as well as Montgomery County, rural Black Belt counties from the Mississippi line to the Georgia border. So we've been following this race since April of this year, when Shamari Figures actually won the 2nd congressional Democratic candidacy. Now, since then, him and his Republican candidate, Caroline Dobson, they've both been going back and forth. It's been a heated battle to win today, getting here to November 5th. And so just want to very briefly and quickly just give some background information on Democratic candidate Shamari Figures. Now, he is, of course, a Mobile native. He actually ended up casting his ballot at Savior Catholic Church in Mobile just a few hours ago. And when we got the chance to catch up with him and speak with him, he said he is feeling good today. He had one final message, and that push to get out to voters, just encouraging them to get out and vote. He spoke on his experience, he says, is what mainly separates him from his Republican opponent, Caroline Dobson. He says it's his federal experience with the government, representing the district in Washington. And Shamari has served in the state Senate. He's a former top aide to U.S. Attorney General. He's worked alongside former President Barack Obama, and he is the son, as we all know, to Senator Vivian Figures, a seat she still currently holds now. It's been this heated battle between him and Republican candidate Caroline Dobson. And Shamari basically, when he was speaking with us earlier, really wanted to emphasize on the healthcare crisis here in Alabama. We've had hospitals closing, and he says he wants to see more done to improve that. And he spoke about improving economic opportunities, educational opportunities. And so we don't anticipate him, of course, we know those polls will be closing soon, so he is out campaigning until that last minute. We don't expect him to be here until later on tonight at 8 o'clock. But again, the room is starting to fill up. Those preparations underway here at the Battle House, and we'll certainly be here once Shamari arrives. So I'm going to toss it back to you all in the studio, Lanice, Vanessa.
All right, thank you, Ariel. And once more, as the polls get closer to closing in about 8 minutes from now and the results start to roll in, you can expect more people to start to roll into that watch party for Figures.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we are using today for Election Day is our touch board. Yeah. So we've been showing you those local and state races. We can also show you this map, this presidential United States map.
That's right. We are seeing some races already called. So we see that it's highlighted in red. That means that that state has been called for former President Trump. So we're talking Indiana and Kentucky so far. And also when it is highlighted in blue, you can tell that that's been highlighted for Vice President Harris. So that would be Vermont. And also in Vermont, we know that Bernie Sanders won his re-election bid.
So for more on this touch board, we're going to toss it over to Lee. Lee has more information. He'll kind of give you a breakdown of what everything is looking like so far on this election day. Lee?
Yeah, hey, Lanice and Vanessa, a lot of activity going on in the states right here that are highlighted. Of course, Alabama, not a lot of activity. Of course, Alabama is still in play. We have about 7 minutes left until polls close at 7 p.m. That right here, 9 electoral votes here in Alabama. We'll continue to watch that as polls close. We should get some more numbers in and have a lot more to talk about and a lot to break down. We can break it down. If I go back to Alabama, we can break it down by county. Of course, Mobile County, Baldwin County, on into, if we go here, Florida, we can go into Escambia County. Florida right now, an estimated 79% of the votes in for the state of Florida. Again, 30 electoral votes here, a huge win. Republican in 2020. It will likely, of course, stay Republican in 2024. Donald Trump right now, as it stands in Florida, his home state, 54% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 44% of the vote. You can see the numbers here just updated live from the Associated Press. We are seeing these numbers come in real time. If we go back to the map, you guys were talking about some of the states that have been called. Let's just take a look at former President Trump. the states that have been called for Trump, of course, Indiana and Kentucky called very early, 11 electoral votes in Indiana, Kentucky with 8 electoral votes. Both states were Republican in 2020. They are staying that way in 2024. West Virginia called in the last 45 minutes or so. 4 electoral votes here. You can see 56% for Trump, 41% for Kamala Harris. All of this adds up. Of course, this is the Electoral College we're talking about here. All of this adds up. Each candidate trying to get to the magic number of 270 electoral votes. And you see the numbers playing across the nation here. What that means, that's the representation they have in Washington, D.C. That kind of plays a factor in how many electoral votes each state gets. Of course, with a state the size of California, you have 54 electoral votes. But the states that we're going to be watching, of course, we are watching our home state of Alabama. We're watching Florida very closely. But the swing states, those 7 key swing states, the pathway to the White House will be determined by these swing states. Of course, we have Nevada with 6 electoral votes. We have Arizona with 11. We are watching Lanice, your home state of Michigan, 15 electoral votes. We're watching Wisconsin. We are watching North Carolina here with 16 electoral votes. Again, right now, the light blue means it's leaning towards Kamala Harris with the votes that are in. We're also watching Georgia. This one right now leaning, the light red leaning towards Donald Trump. Of course, this is a state, if we X out of this, this is a state that Donald Trump, we've been talking about, won in 2016. Of course, President Joe Biden flipped it back to the Democrats in 2020. Donald Trump looking to redeem himself in Georgia tonight with a win. Of course, the rural counties outside of Atlanta and some of the bigger metropolitan areas, that's where Donald Trump will try to run up his votes. Kamala Harris is counting on the metropolitan areas. So we will continue to watch Georgia. At this point, still very early for Georgia, 23% of the vote in right now. Donald Trump, as it stands, with 61%, Kamala Harris at 38%. Let's go back to the map. We want to talk about Kamala Harris. Right now, she just has one state won with 3 electoral votes. That is Vermont. Donald Trump, if we go back here, with 3 states won, a total of 23 electoral votes. All of this playing out as polls close across the nation. Of course, Alabama polls closing in 3 minutes. Let's take another view here. If we want to break this down by the races that we're really interested in, we can break it down by race and kind of give you a rundown of a list. Hyper-focused on the presidential race. We've been talking about this at some length. This is the big race. Everyone is watching this race. As it stands right now, Donald Trump with 7.9 million votes rather, to Kamala Harris's 6.3%. Again, a lot of votes still outstanding. If we go to this is our race we were watching here that Ariel was talking about, that newly redrawn congressional, 2nd congressional district that goes all the way from North Alabama down here to Mobile County. We have Mobile native Shamari Figures, the Democrat in this race, coming against political newcomer Caroline Dobson. Again, not a lot of activity as the polls are still open with minutes to go here in Alabama. We're also watching Congressional District 1 race. You have Tom Holmes, the Democrat, facing off with Barry Moore, the Republican. So a lot at play right here. We're going to continue to watch these numbers as they continue to roll in. We're looking for surprises here tonight. We'll continue to keep you updated from our end across the board. Right now, I'm going to toss it over to Chief Meteorologist Jason Smith. Not only does he have more on the Election Day forecast, he's also watching the tropics. Jason.
Yeah, let's check it out right now. So we've got a tropical storm in the Caribbean here in early November, and this can happen. And so, tropical season extends until November the 30th. The good news is, as this moves into the Gulf, it may be a hurricane, but it will weaken once it gets into the northern Gulf, as it will be encountering some dry air, some shear, and some cooler water temperatures. Here's a look at it, a kind of a 3D look at the system here, and it is definitely getting better organized. So what will will we see locally? Well, we've had bad surf conditions at the beaches for over a week. That is likely going to continue through the weekend. So it's just way rough out there in the Gulf, and it could be enhanced by Raphael some. Rain chances, will they go up? We've got them up slightly for Saturday and Sunday, but it's not a big deal based on what we're seeing right now. Those chances would go higher if it was to come more towards us. There's a lot of uncertainties in the forecast in the long range, but we think that through Thursday we've got it pegged to be in the Gulf of Mexico. Right now it's in the Caribbean. It is now a hurricane. We've got Hurricane Raphael, so it just upgraded to a hurricane. Winds at 75, and the motion northwest at 15, pressure 986, and we expect it to maintain itself as a hurricane, perhaps stronger, crossing Cuba, entering the Gulf of Mexico over the warm loop current, and then exiting the loop current and starting to run into a wall of dry air and wind shear and cooler sea surface temperatures. And note the winds, they go from 75 to 60 to 45. So if it was to come our way, it may be a very weak tropical storm. It may not even be a tropical system once it comes ashore across the northern Gulf Coast. Here's a look at it. As of tomorrow around 5 p.m. over western Cuba, this is on the GFS model. It wobbles it westward as this ridge gets a little stronger off to the east and pushes it into the central Gulf on Friday at noon, and that's where it about runs out of warm water, and we start to see the colors change on what the Futurecast is representing as to what the radar would look like. You can still see the circulation. It's dry on the west side and still moist on the east side, so we could see some rain out of this. This is showing up on the Futurecast version of it through Sunday. The models are all pretty much in the same spot through Friday morning, and then they kind of go all over the place because we don't know how strong the system's going to be. We're not exactly sure how strong this high pressure ridge will be, but if it gets out on the edge of the ridge, it could kind of turn our way. That'll be something to watch out for, but some models bring it towards Mexico. Others bring it into southeast Louisiana. There's getting to be a tighter grouping right in through here with what happens with Raphael. The dry air, it's not just this here, but this here where we have the higher jet stream winds too. A lot of dry air over Texas. That continental air is likely going to get pushed into the system down the road. Water temperatures, as it crosses out of the central Gulf, it moves out of the 80-degree stuff, and we start to get into the upper 70s with the water temperatures where you see it in orange, and so that's going to be a limiting factor too for Raphael. Wind shear will also potentially rip this thing apart, and it's very strong to the northwest. And on Saturday, we have it encountering an area. It goes from a low wind shear environment to a moderate to high wind shear environment, and that will likely weaken the system. Now, the remainder of the voting, it looks like polls just closing here, I believe, at 7 o'clock. We are still seeing some showers out there affecting your evening in Mobile. We've got rain working through town. We've got more out over the bay moving in. This could really make some yards happy. Good night to stay inside and watch election coverage on our Fox 10 Gulf stream. We'll have more updates on the forecast as we go through time. But for now, I'm going to send it to our CTV room with Lenise and Vanessa for more on the election.
All right, thank you, Jason. Yes, we are in the Gulfstream room and appreciate that update. Goodness, a lot going on with Raphael, and of course our team of meteorologists will continue to keep you updated on that path.
All right, so we were going to toss over things to Shelby in just a moment, but we do want to talk about this pay.
Well, because a lot of issues are on the ballot, and right now, if you are voting in Mobile County, or if you did 3 minutes ago, because the polls have officially closed, they've got the pay as you go on there, and basically it's simple: for it or against it. And Vanessa's got it pulled up.
Yeah, so we have a 2024 pay as you go program. It's a transportation improvement program, proposes committing $82 million to Mobile County roads and bridges. So this was on the ballot. You either voted for or against it.
And of course, in addition to that, we had some Chief Justice seats up. Taking a look at the candidates for that, Sarah Stewart and Greg Griffin. And we had the county clerk office and the Board of Education for District 5.
Yeah, so here's a board circuit clerk office. Obviously, we spoke about this earlier today. You also have the House in the District 1 and District 2 that we were just tossing to Brendan and Ariel. Okay, so we're going to toss things over to Shelby now. She is standing by at
with
one of
an
the voting
umbrella. The rain is off and on all throughout the day.
Yeah, guys, it sure is. The drizzles we thought had left, and I was going to be able to get this live shot in before it started back up. Nope, it is drizzling again. So good things, the polls are closed. 4 minutes ago, everything closed down. We're here at St. Paul's Episcopal Church, just off of Old Shell, a busy roadway. You know, I've been here since around 6 o'clock, maybe a little bit after that, and no line whatsoever. People were able to go in, vote, come out real easy peasy. And so we've been here for a little while, and you can see now that the doors are officially shut at the church behind me. And so we saw a couple of people kind of coming in around that 6:55 mark in their scrubs, in their work gear, trying to get their vote in before the polls closed, and they did. Our Claudia Nichols has been out here and at different polls across Mobile County all throughout the day. I voted where I live over in Baldwin County, and I was at Eastern Shore Baptist Church, and the line was wrapped around the church earlier today. That was the case we saw for a lot of different places. A lot of people coming out to vote. Some people even telling us they've never seen this many people at their polling precinct come out. So it's been a day where people have poured out to make sure their voice matters in casting their votes. Many of you have been sending us pictures in all day from the lines that you waited in. Continue to do that, even though, again, polls are closed here. It is 7:05. You can still send in your pictures, still send in your I voted stickers on our website and on our app, foxntv.com. But yeah, I mean, the rain's here. I was kind of joking about this earlier with a colleague, just talking about how we went the whole month without seeing any rain in October, and then on Halloween we had some drizzles, and here on Election Day we're seeing some more of those drizzles. But again, that didn't stop anybody. It was overcast earlier today, warm weather, didn't stop people from getting to the polls. So we're going to check in with you guys a little bit later, but again, polls are closed here and all across the state. Of course, those numbers are going to be starting to roll in. So I'm going to send things back to you guys. Live in Mobile, Shelby Myers, Fox 10 News.
Thank you, Shelby. And as she mentioned, yes, the polls in Alabama are closed. And in fact, if we take a look at our election board here, you can see Alabama has been called for former President Trump. Taking a look, 9 electoral votes received, and this is all according to early voting and the popular, the votes that have been tallied thus far.
So far you have 9 states being called for Donald Trump. If we're looking at Kamala Harris, you have the blue popped up and we canceled out the red. You have a few areas here. So you have Maryland, you also have Vermont, let's see here, Connecticut, I'm trying to click on the small one, Rhode Island, but just a few that have been called, Vermont, and then you also have Massachusetts.
So again, these aren't necessarily the big swing states, the battleground states that we were talking about. We're still waiting for those tallies to be called in. Michigan votes, I can tell you the polls there just closed. So soon we will be starting to see those votes being tallied. North Carolina, a lot of people mailed in their ballots and did early voting there. So we should be seeing the results for that coming in soon. But Vanessa's got it highlighted to say where these states are leaning. This is all early. This is all very early. As we know, going into this election, it was a very tight race, but you can see the states that are leaning in blue highlighted for the vice president.
And then the red ones that you can see highlighted for former President Donald Trump. Yeah. You have your toss-up states, which Texas was just in white.
Yes.
They took that out. So now it's leaning more towards red. So this is our touch board. We'll, of course, keep you updated. Continue to follow us throughout the evening. Y'all are about to go on air in just a few minutes as well. If you don't have the GovStream app, it's completely free for your smart TV devices. So if you have Apple TV, Fire TV, Roku. Roku, you can download the GovStream. You can also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Facebook, we'll try to keep track of your comments. If there are any specific states that you want to get more information about, or any local races, Alabama, Florida's races, just ask us. And we'll be coming back around 7:45 and trying to answer some of those questions that we may see on Facebook. But yeah, we're going to keep you updated.
Absolutely. That is what we do. And this technology allows us to give you even more information specific to what you want to know. We can go county by county in case you're interested in finding out, what areas did what with their vote today. As Vanessa mentioned, I'll be joining you momentarily on Fox 10 News over the air with Cameron to continue our election coverage. And then we will be back maybe. Yeah. Okay, at 7:45.
You're always welcome. You're always welcome. Yeah, so we'll be back at 7:45 to just give you another update, and then go to those watch parties where we have Brendan and Ariel, and just give you another update on how this presidential race is going. So just keep following us. If you're watching us on GovStream, just keep it going, because you'll see Lanice in just a few minutes. And you'll see us here at 7:45. So thank you for joining us, and we'll of course have another update 7:45. All right, thanks for joining us.